What do you mean when you refer to the matrix?
The matrix is an extremely monumental part of the whole grounding process. So, and all of the individual benefits that you see threads on Twitter or Instagram and all that, these are really cool, but you're kind of missing out on the bigger picture of what grounding is doing for your body. And so I wrote about this and I call it the big three. So I tried to boil what grounding is doing on a most fundamental level and why. And so all of these benefits are kind of stemming from these basic three things. One is that it increases the density of negative charge in your body, and that contributes to its electrical homeostasis, which is going to impact everything in your body. That's one. Number two is that it attenuates the inflammation oxidative stress response, the excessive inflammation oxidative stress response. And that has to do with the antioxidants and all that we talked about earlier. And then number three is that it charges the water protein matrix battery. And that's where the matrix comes in. So when I say matrix, I'm referring to all of the connective tissue in your body, and that's fascia, that's tendons, that's ligaments, that's blood, that's bones. It's very, very extensive. And though that connective tissue, a big part of that is the extracellular matrix, and we can talk about that soon. But I do want to emphasize this matrix is the only system in your body that has a direct contact with every cell in your body. So these connective tissues are further connected to these integrins, which basically traverse cell membranes. They go into the cell, and even further, those connect to the cytoskeletons, kind of the scaffolding that keeps that gives the cell its shape, but it does much more than that. And then further, that cytoskeleton connects to these link complexes, which ultimately goes into the actual DNA itself. And so it's essentially this super highway that energy can transfer itself through very, very efficiently, very, very quickly. But there's a particular component of this matrix. It's called ground substance. And what ground substance is it's these glycoconjugates, these proteoglycans, these glycosaminoglycans, particularly these glycosaminoglycans. They're heavily sulfated. So they trap a lot of water, but they're also negatively charged. So these are dispersed throughout your entire body. So essentially you have this massive store of negative charge throughout your body that can be utilized for various different processes, ATP production, immune function. So when you ground, you're essentially charging up that ground substance along with the water that's in contact with this whole matrix system, because water interacts very interestingly with these hydrophilic surfaces and the matrix. So it's essentially this body-wide battery that gets charged up through grounding. Another good way is through infrared radiation, among other things. But I'm most concerned with the grounding side of things.
So that's why the book is called Earth and Water. It's that
That's why
second half there.
that's why the book is called Earth and Water. Yeah.
So it's interesting. So you mentioned extracellular matrix.
Mm-hmm.
That's something different from what you just described.
So no, the extracellular matrix is part of
okay.
it's part of the matrix. So connective tissue, like all the bones, the blood, the tendons, the fascia. Uh, so that's mostly extracellular matrix. So connective tissue is a collection of cells, fibers, and ground substance. So it's when you look at a tissue, it's not mostly made up of cells. It's mostly made up of the space around cells, and that's the extracellular matrix. So this is what's making up a large part of your body, along with water, and the proteins that make up those structures. Because protein is the main macromolecule in the body. But yeah, the matrix is an extremely interesting thing that I try to really hammer down whenever I talk about grounding.
So it's that space between the cells.
Space between the cells. Yep.
Mm.
Yep.
Fascinating.
It's the most pervasive system in the body. Again, the only system that has a direct contact with every cell in the body. And
Mm.
it just hasn't been separated as kind of its own system because of how pervasive it is, because of how involved it is with everything in your body. Especially in Western medicine, it's not really considered its own system. Um, and really, I think the meridian system plays into that too. That's kind of a whole another conversation. But the meridian system, at least from an electrical standpoint, is essentially this low impedance pathway for electrical energy to get through your body. So I think that's in large part how the meridian system works, as far as improving health and stimulating that. But yeah, so that's essentially what the Matrix is. Um, so and it's a fun chapter for sure. So I think people will really like it.